This is one of the biggest stories on my channel. I'm very grateful for everybody who tuned in. This is actually a final update. So this is literally it. The individual that you guys see on my screen, the final sentence, just so you could skip all of the pleasantries. This story leads and ends with this man doing life in prison. Okay, just so you guys know, that's the way that the story ends. So I think they got this conviction perfectly right. Now, if they had a stronger law where in this particular state, if they could have put him to the DP penalty, the death penalty, I think it would actually suit here. But before we get there, let me give you guys a disclaimer about my type of content. Some viewers may find the following content offensive and controversial. The information in this video comes from multiple sources, including court records, official police charges, news web articles, and interviews. This video commentary also contains my personal opinions about the facts of this story. The point is to use this story as a cautionary tale in hopes of preventing tragedies like these to children going forward. Viewer discretion is advised. That is your official disclaimer. All right. So, the individual that you guys see on my screen, let me see if I can back it up just for a second. This guy. And this story happened a few years back, but it took Montgomery County jury about 90 minutes this week to convict a Collegeville man of first-degree murder and involuntary deviant sexual intercourse in the death of his own 10-month-old daughter. Now, when I first told this story, it actually brought me to tears because I thought about my daughter when she was this age. And the last thing I could ever think to do is to hurt or harm my baby. And I want y'all to look at how happy this little girl is. Beautiful little baby. And she didn't deserve a single thing of what her father was convicted of. So for even for the people who tried to come and defend him and saying he's going to get his day in court, well, he got his day in court and he epically failed. Just to let you guys know. Austin Kamal Stevens, 31 years old, was sentenced to life in prison immediately by Common Pleas Court Judge William Carpenter. Stevens, who is a former youth football coach, and you guys saw that from the picture, in Lower Providence Township, said nothing Thursday at the close of his 3-day trial in Norristown. First Assistant District Attorney Edward McCann, who prosecuted the case, said afterwards that the death of that beautiful angel right there, 10-month-old Zara Scruggs, at the hand of her father was a new level of horror. So just as a forewarning, you guys are going to hear some details. That's actually my original thumbnail. So if you go back in my channel and look, you'll see those videos and those thumbnails. Those are actually mine that I created. To see a father sexually abuse, kill their child, and then be so cold and cavalier about what he did after the fact, I think the jury saw that, he said. And obviously the fact that they came back so quickly with a verdict shows that. During the proceedings before Carpenter, Kelly argued there was no clear evidence that Stevens had sexually assaulted his daughter and that the infant's death was accidental. The girl was found cold and lifeless in Stevens' apartment on October 2020. He told detectives that Zara had fallen and hit her head in the bathtub while briefly left alone. And this is part of what started me with this whole deal of another bathtub story. It started with stuff like this because it seems like a lot of these things that are happening to kids, they keep blaming it. They slipped and fell in the bathtub. They drowned in the bathtub. The bathtub, the bathtub, the bathtub. A lot of these stories end up in bathtubs, and it's just weird. Very, very weird. Or weird coincidence, I should say. But an autopsy revealed that she had suffered significant head trauma and bore signs of sexual abuse. Now, I actually pulled up the court case text, case details. I'm not so sure that y'all want me to read that. But if you look up casetext.com/case/Commonwealth V-Stevens-77. That's the actual place where you can look it up, read it. It will turn your stomach. So for those who are really into true crime, if you really, really want to find out what happened to this baby. And I know people say it's hard to listen to these stories, but think about when people say it's hard to listen to these stories. What about what that little girl had to go through and what her dad put her through? Isn't that worse? What she actually had to live and die through was not nearly as bad as us paying homage and giving her story a listening ear and promoting this story and letting people know here's what happened. This should be the topic that everybody should be talking about. Data that was retrieved from Austin Stevens' phone showed that he waited up to an hour before calling 911, and then he Googled, what if baby stops breathing? And he also Googled, how do you know if a baby is dead, according to prosecutors? So the thought process. They likened his actions to a cover-up and says he appeared calm and emotionless during conversations with detectives just hours after his daughter's death. So let's keep going. So let me read from this source, from POTTSMERC.com. The defendant, Kamal Stevens, right there, Austin Stevens, sexually abused his 10-month-old little girl, and then he willfully and deliberately let her die to cover up what he did. More than 24 people, many wearing pink face coverings or T-shirts embossed with "Justice for Zara," to show support for the baby when they were in the courtroom when the verdict was announced. Outside the courtroom, Darlene Spencer Smith, who was Zara's grandmother, approached McCann and Ringwood and said, "You guys are awesome. I just want to say I'm glad that justice was served. I appreciate everything Montgomery County did for Zara. They spoke up for her. They told her story. The evidence was there," Spencer Smith said. Spencer Smith says she will always remember Zara's laughter and smile. And you guys can see that from the picture. She's a beautiful little girl. And y'all hit that thumbs up if you agree, please. "She was my sunshine. She was my joy. She was happy. She was fun. She was not a fussy baby. She was a great baby. Her laughter, her fun, she was just delightful," said Spencer Smith of Norristown. During his closing statements to the jurors, McCann argued every choice Stevens made led to baby Zara's death. He made a conscious choice to let her die, dramatically pointing at Stevens while referring to the evil that he perpetrated inside his residence when he sexually assaulted the child and then struck the child's head against a hard surface. We're talking about a 10-month-old and slamming that child against a surface at least twice. Deadly force against a vital part of a 10-month-old's body, that's catastrophic. That's a catastrophic injury. Catastrophic injury. I can't talk today. McCann replayed for the jury video clips of statements Stevens made to detectives just hours after Zara died, in which he appeared emotionless and matter-of-fact as he described the child's unresponsiveness. I think I can skip some of this because it gets pretty long. But here's what I want to do. I want to actually show you guys one of the news videos, and then I want you to hear from my original commentary. So let me give you guys the fair usage real quick. Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. So let me say this to kind of address, because I know Rude asked where was the mother in this situation, and I don't remember exactly what a mother was because, like I said, it was about 3 years ago, and I didn't fully look for where the mother was in the details, but I can tell you this. At the time when he was, I hate to say babysitting, but I guess that was kind of what he was doing in this situation. But the mother was allowing him to be a father, and he was watching his child this day when all of this happened, basically. So imagine if I tell my daughter's mom, like, hey, I want to watch my daughter. She's 10 months old. I go pick her up. Boom. I have my daughter. I'll bring her back at such and such time. That's usually kind of how we would do things, even though my daughter spent quite a bit of time with me. So imagine when you're trying to let a biological father be a father. You know, he has her, I guess, while he's not at work. So Anyway, here we go. Let's talk about this.
A warning, some of the details in this story are disturbing. A 29-year-old father is charged with first-degree murder for the death of his 10-month-old daughter. Investigators say the girl was sexually assaulted by Austin Stevens before she died. They say an hour before calling 911. Stevens Google searched, quote, "My baby isn't breathing," and, quote, "How do you know if a baby is dead?" An autopsy revealed the baby was the victim of sexual assault with trauma to her body and also blunt force trauma to her head, which ultimately killed her. Stevens' charges include first-degree murder, rape of a child, and aggravated assault. Katie Johnston for CBS Philly.
Ladies and gentlemen, this particular, and I meant to warn you about this. This is actually my original video commentary when this was going on. So I want y'all to just kind of hear this and just kind of hear what my thoughts are, my real raw emotion when this happened. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, this particular story is just one of those stories that there just are no words for, okay? The fact that as a man, as a black man, as a father, I am absolutely embarrassed at the fact that this man could even be called a man or a father. You just got to hear this story, and I'm going to warn you guys, it's going to be a little bit difficult to digest if you're not able to handle the details. I get it, I understand, and this might not be the story for you. But for everybody else that wants to hear this story, a baby girl died after she was raped by her biological father. And then he waited more than an hour to call 911 at his Montgomery County home, according to investigators. Hashtag not my words. And I want y'all to look at this picture, and I'm going to tell y'all something. I'm going to tell you something that really broke my heart. All of these kids just look so happy. Every single one. Malia looked happy. Especially Tyrez. When you see the story about Tyrez Moore, he looked so happy. This baby girl. It's really hard for me to talk about this story because I remember when my daughter was this size. I always talk to my daughter about when she was born. I love my baby so much, and shout out to her. But I remember when my daughter was this small. Sorry. I'm just curious as to what this baby did to deserve what she got. What did this baby do so wrong to deserve what she got? And I don't understand it. I don't get it. And I want to say some very, very horrible things on air, and I'm going to refrain from doing so because it hurt my heart to hear this. And you see her face. I just don't understand it. I'm sorry. Y'all hold on a moment. All right. Okay, let me tell the story. This person that you see on my screen, his name is Austin Stevens, who is 29 years old, of Lower Providence Township. And that father, this individual, was arrested and charged with involuntary deviant sexual intercourse, rape of a child, aggravated assault, aggravated indecent assault, endangering the welfare of a child, and other related incidents. Police were called to a home on the 3400 block of Germantown Road in Lower Providence Township, Pennsylvania, for a report of an unresponsive infant. When they arrived, they found the biological father, Austin Stevens, with his unresponsive 10-month-old daughter, Zara Scruggs. Zara Scruggs, Scruggs. 10-month-old Zara. Baby Zara was taken to Einstein Medical Center, Montgomery, where she was pronounced dead at 12:12 a.m. on Sunday. Investigators searched Austin Stevens' phone and found, and y'all can see from the screenshots, found that he conducted several Google searches for nearly an hour before he called 911. The searches included, which, matter of fact, let me see if I can find those screenshots. Here are the screenshots. He Google searched, if a baby stopped breathing. What if you don't hear a baby or beat? I think he meant heartbeat. A baby heart or beat. My baby isn't breathing. And lastly, how do you know if a baby is dead? According to investigators. Hashtag not my words. Don't get mad at me for telling you guys what the investigators are reporting as a fact. Police say that Austin Stevens also spoke to 2 women by way of his text messages and on social media during the hour before calling 911 about topics unrelated to his child. An autopsy conducted on Sunday determined baby Zara was the victim of a sexual assault, and that baby suffered blunt force trauma to the head. This case is deeply disturbing, and it's hard to imagine the child's death being any more traumatic. Sexual assault on an infant, followed by inaction by the father to save her life, and led to her death. That's according to Montgomery County District Attorney Kevin Steele. This individual, Austin Stevens, was remanded to the Montgomery County Correctional Facility after failing to make a $1 million bail. We're going to go ahead and stop it right there, and I'm going to read this last part about it. Let me see if I can fix this real quick here. Boom. So, there we go. This last part here. Detectives pressed Stevens as to why he waited more than 70 minutes to call 911, and Stevens claims that he was panicked, quote unquote, and he admitted conducting the internet searches. Stevens also admitted to using a text message application to communicate with a woman while conducting internet searches. So the thing is, I think that made this even weirder. At the time, he was trying to I think he was trying to holler at some, like when we say holler, like trying to court, like trying to court some woman or something like that. Really, really weird. The messaging content did not discuss any issues regarding Zara or her need for emergency care, Crestelelli and Drebus alleged in the arrest affidavit. Ringwood described those messages as flirtatious in nature. Okay? Detectives concluded Stevens, and here's the answer to your question for those who are asking about the biological mother, and I think this is a visitation situation when they say custody, so keep that in mind. So here we go. It said that the detectives concluded that Austin Stevens had sole care and custody of the child at the time he had sexual assault injuries were inflicted. At the time the head and sexual assaults were afflicted. So let me read that again. Detectives concluded that Stevens had sole care and custody of the child at the time the head and sexual assault injuries were inflicted. So that doesn't mean that he had custody of the child. It just means at the time the child was with him. That sounds like the mother said, here, you can come pick your child up and spend some time with her, which should be a normal thing for normal human beings, but he's not a normal person. These actions were a continuing course of conduct that created a substantial risk of death, and Stevens failed to provide a duty of care when the child was in need of emergency care. In closing, he is by far one of the worst black men that I know. He is by far one of the worst fathers I know. He is by far subhuman. He's not a good person. And for all the people who try to defend him, when I posted these videos and when I had my original commentary and was saying we need to wait and all of this stuff, there was so much evidence that I just wish that people really would have kept an open mind as to what we were saying, what he was being charged with, the fact that he had $1 million bond, and none of his story made any sense. And even his whole demeanor and how he carried himself throughout the court proceedings made zero sense for a person that allegedly cared about their child and is not guilty of this. Everything about his whole demeanor said that he was guilty. And guess what? We were right. We have not had to do a single story retraction yet in almost 4 to 5 years of us doing the AFC podcast. So I want you guys to think about that for a moment. To this angel, to this happy baby, and I think that's the mother right there. I'm not sure, though. She's such a beautiful baby, and I love her pictures. This is even him trying to play like he's a father. This was, oh, and matter of fact, y'all got to go back and watch my original commentary. We talked about this job that he had, this diamond construction thing was allegedly his company, but the place that he was living in looked like absolute hell. But he had a construction company going on. But just a beautiful little baby, man. She was happy, and everybody confirmed that. Probably one of my favorite pictures of her is this one. That's probably my favorite picture of her. So, Zara Scruggs, 10 months old, young princess, R.I.P. We will never forget you. And we are absolutely glad that this is the update that everybody wanted to hear, and we got justice. So we are absolutely happy with the verdict, and this was the correct verdict. This man needs life in prison, and if they had more that they could have given him, they could have gave him more. So go to hell, Austin Kamal Stevens, alleged father. Thank you guys so much for listening with an open mind and an open heart to this story. This is a hell of an update, and I think that we got to win here. But as men, as black men, we got to do better. We can't have people like this. And this story should be absolutely viral. This story should have made 5-10 million views. Absolutely should have went viral. That angel deserved every bit of that attention and love. Thank you guys so much.